On today's news, a WWE Hall of Famer is planning on a match in 6 months' time. A huge steel cage match has been announced for next week's SmackDown. Who won that New Japan Pro Wrestling United States Heavyweight Championship match? When did The Miz find out about his cash-in? And what is on the horizon for the NWA? Hello everybody, welcome back to your solo Sunday news with myself, Gareth, sat here on my Todd on a Sunday because you know what, I like working at the end of the week. It's peaceful, it's relaxing, and I get to deliver news like this. Because while speaking to Sirius XM's Busted Open Radio, Mark Henry, of all people, you remember that guy who was on Raw Legends Night recently, he was on his little scooter, it was all very sad because Randy Orton was just bullying everyone, but he has spoken about plans on having a match in the next 6 months. So whilst he was speaking on the show, he had this to say. He name dropped a certain guy who I may have already just mentioned in that statement previously, but we'll just go into what he said. So Henry said, "I'd rather get punked out than to get my ass whooped. Randy Orton is not somebody to mess around with if you're not 100%. Now I'm walking on 2 feet, I'm 325 pounds, I'm lighter, trimmer than I've ever been, and I plan on having a match sometime in the next 6 months. I just want to have one match, and if Randy is the guy, then so be it. Believe me, I'll be ready and I won't be on 1 foot on a push scooter." So yes, Mark Henry, he's in full training, he's going to return, he's going to have a big match, it's going to be the headline of WrestleMania. Okay, I'm maybe getting a little bit carried away there, but it's awesome to see that he has got his mind on this right now. He's in what seems like the best shape of his life, so all power to Mr. Henry. I hope he goes and smashes whatever it is he wants to do. Could that be in WWE, or could that actually be in AEW? Could he be inspired by looking at Paul White, his buddy from WWE, who's had some mega clashes with over the years? They broke the damn ring in WWE, if you remember rightly, so that could be quite interesting. He could potentially go over to AEW and have one last match with somebody like Will Hobbs or Brian Cage, somebody like that. That'd be really cool, so just let me know what you think of that story straight away. But speaking about the future, and it's, yeah, the more immediate future, but it's the future nonetheless, on the most recent episode of Talking Smack, if you don't watch it, I recommend it because every week there's just a little nugget of goodness, and on this week's we had an interview between Paul Heyman and Daniel Bryan, where it was pretty much set up that Daniel Bryan was going to have another chance to take on Jey Uso, with the end goal being if he beats Jey Uso that he'll get a Universal Championship shot against Roman Reigns at Fastlane. But things took an interesting turn when Daniel Bryan was like, okay, cool, I've got the match, thank you, Mr. Heyman, but just to ensure we get the result that, you know, is a fair result and it doesn't get a double count out and there's no interference and all the rest of it, I want this match in a steel cage. And then Paul Heyman was like, oh, I can't really authorize that, I'm just a humble kind of advocate kind of guy, I'm a special counsel, I can't really do much else. And then he got a text off Roman Reigns saying, yep, call the match, we're having it. And then Daniel Bryan, just, I think, excitedly and just absolutely over the moon with this match, he went to a new level. He just cut a promo, which was, I didn't see it coming, and it just got me super excited for this match. I'm just going to read it word for word, verbatim, and see what you think of it as well. So he said, "I have a message for you to give to Roman Reigns. I am no longer putting myself on the back burner. I am no longer putting other people first. I'm going to take what's mine, and that's the reign that I've had before CM Punk, and that's the best damn wrestler in the world." Name dropping CM Punk on Talking Smack, you just, that is the instant way to make all wrestling fans do backflips and go crazy. I'm totally here for this Daniel Bryan. Now, I know everyone was saying, yeah, it's really cool, Daniel Bryan's putting over everyone, he's been really great on his way out of his last full-time tenure in WWE. But this is what I want to see. A passionate Daniel Bryan going, you know what? I've been a bystander for too long. I'm taking back my crown. I'm going to be the best wrestler in the world. But if he loses this steel cage match, there is the added stipulation that he has to acknowledge the tribal chief, the amazing tribal chief, who I'm terrified of, you're terrified of. He has to acknowledge him as the best wrestler in the world. So high stakes, and my goodness, I'm ready for it. So away from WWE, we have some really big news when it comes to a highly anticipated New Japan Pro Wrestling match, which did go down on Friday night. It's just very hard to kind of catch this news with time difference and all the rest of it, but we're finally going to get there. We're going to talk about the fact that Jon Moxley successfully defended his New Japan Pro Wrestling United States Heavyweight Championship. He did that against KENTA. It was a match that everybody, their mouths were watering. They were like, this is just going to be hard-hitting stuff. It's been built up for some time now. KENTA's even appeared on AEW Wrestling to kind of build this thing. and it didn't disappoint. It was absolutely brutal, it was back and forth, but in the end, Moxley emerged victorious after connecting with his trademark, his absolute monster death rider DDT, which is the paradigm shift. It's like its own more brutal version of that move, and that is his third successive defense of this United States title, this United States heavyweight title. He's been super successful with it since reclaiming it at last year's Wrestle Kingdom 14. So I don't know what this means for Moxley. I didn't see this coming. I thought he was going to drop the belt to Kenta and then maybe even lose that match to Kenny Omega at Revolution, which is on March 7th, obviously. And then I thought he's maybe going to take a bit of time off. But the fact that he's got this belt still at this point, he could still take time off, but he's probably going to be taking it off with a belt, which is probably a nicer way to do it, just having a nice belt over your shoulder to keep you company. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens going forward, but I think an exploding barbed wire death match is probably a good way to celebrate defending your belt. And after our brief detour away from WWE, let's go back to WWE. And actually, there's a bit of a connection here because The Miz had a recent interview with Renee Paquette, who's obviously the wife of Jon Moxley, so haha, connections. And during this interview in the Oral Sessions podcast, he talked about a lot of things. He talked about his Talking Smack, the infamous Talking Smack promo, talked about his dad, talked about loads of different things, but one of the major talking points and takeaway points from this interview was him talking about not really having any idea about the cash-in that went down at Elimination Chamber, which means he is now the new WWE champion. He didn't know anything about it until just a few hours before the show. So whilst talking to Renee, he said, I had no idea. I walked in there in the afternoon and nobody was talking to me, like all the creative. I'm like, is anybody going to tell me what the hell's going on? Then I went in and figured out what was going on. And I was like, okay, this is it. Honestly, you never believe it's going to happen. You don't until you hear 1, 2, 3. You don't believe it's going to happen, which is a very interesting way of approaching your workplace, like being told something, yes, this is going to happen, but still not believing it until you've actually got hold of the thing that they said you're going to have. Very interesting. So, I mean, regardless of how you feel about The Miz, how you feel about him being WWE champion and just the way everything went down, you can't deny it was pretty surprising. I don't think anybody, and I don't care who you are, I don't think anybody really honestly had thought that The Miz was going to be WWE champion in 2021. That just wasn't something people had planned, especially on the road to WrestleMania of all things. It's just blown that WWE title scene wide open. Everyone's like, oh, is Bobby Lashley going to take it? Is he going to fight Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre and Sheamus? Sheamus is somehow in there. Everyone's just overlooking The Miz, thinking he's going to lose the belt. He might not lose the belt. He might defend it against Bad Bunny at WrestleMania, which would be all kinds of strange. But you know what? Raw right now is all kinds of strange, so why not profit on that and do something insane? Why not? And finally, the last story we are going to cover today is to do with the NWA Power, all the rest of it. Because recently, I believe in like the last day or so, you may have noticed that all of NWA's YouTube videos have been removed. They've been taken away. So there's no word on yet why this has happened. What's the reason behind it? What's behind taking down all of its content, including like all the previous episodes of NWA Power. So at this point, the About section has still got apparently some links to NWA's various social media accounts and all the rest of that stuff on the website. But it's been a bit of a weird development. Nobody's really sure about what exactly is going to happen, apart from a very specific dude that I'm going to get into very, very, very soon, like in about a minute's time. So if you didn't know at this point, the NWA had to break for large spells of 2020 due to the pandemic that's just absolutely shook the planet right now, and it's had a massive effect on NWA. And the president, Billy Corgan, he had to shoot down rumours last July of the promotion shutting down. And then in October, he said again that Power, the show, the NWA show, would be back very soon. So the fact that all the content and all the stuff has suddenly just like gone down and disappeared has really confused a lot of people, including David Marquez, who's obviously one of the announcers at NWA. He'd later admit that he had no idea what was going on at this point. So it's very confusing. But one person who does know exactly what is going on is Mr. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer Radio newsletter and all the good stuff. He spoke on the F4WOnline.com forums, and he said that the promotion is going to be announcing something good in the next few days. He also noted that this has nothing to do with AEW. His full quote is, "I was told it will be something announced in the next few days, which is a good thing, but would not have to do with AEW." So does this mean that the NWA is joining forces with WWE, I don't know, maybe not, probably not, but we'll see what's happening, because it's very odd at this point. Apparently the NWA t-shirts on PWTs have been taken down as well, apparently. It's very strange. It's just kind of happened. They've just dropped off the radar. But if this does lead to something really exciting down the line, perhaps a partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but again, taking all the content down doesn't really make sense for that. It sounds like a WWE move to take away all the content and then push it into the WWE network or something like that. It could be. It very much could be, and that would be interesting, seeing all the NWA people go to WWE and maybe getting a little bit carried away with this. But it's all very surreal right now. We're not sure what's going on. It's very cryptic as well. So we'll stay tuned. We'll let you know when we know. But right now, we don't know. So that has been your solo Sunday news with myself, Gareth, sat here on my Todd doing what I do best, talking about news and stories and fun stuff. Let me know what you think of all the stories in the comment section right down below, what you think of WWE just telling The Miz hours before Elimination Chamber that he's going to cash in, what you think of the NWA right now, what's going on there, Mark Henry potentially, maybe going to AEW, you heard it here first. I mean, might not happen, might happen, we'll see. There's a lot to get stuck into, so I can't wait to hear what you say about it. Don't forget to like the video, share the video, subscribe to all things What Culture Wrestling, find myself on Twitter at gmorgan04, find everybody here at What Culture WWE, and most importantly, again, I say it every week, above everything else, have a good time, you've deserved it, it's been a heck of a week, the sun is shining here in typically cold and gruesome Newcastle, so things are looking up, I hope they're looking up for you, and I will see you very, very soon.